I've been doing martial arts for most of my life since I was really young. I've done judo, karate, kung fu, aikido, and all of that. But not to, I never became an expert in any of those martial arts. Like a lot of people, certainly around people my age, when we first saw Royce Gracie in early UFCs, that's when I noticed, like, wow, what is this guy doing? That's pretty amazing. I want to do that. At the time, this was a long time ago. I'm not a spring chicken. This was a long time ago. So back in the day, there were no real Brazilian jiu-jitsu schools in Montreal. So what I ended up doing was traveling to the States to train with the Gracies. And I actually ended up training with, there was a Gracie Association in upstate New York. And Royce would travel there periodically, and every time Royce was there, I was there too. So that's how I started my training with, under a legit jiu-jitsu instruction. And at some point, Henzo opened up a school in New York City. This was a long time ago. Henzo's first academy was actually smaller than mine now. It was tiny. And I was training there too. And I can't remember, but at some point, I got my blue belt through the Gracie Association from Royce himself. So I'm a Royce Gracie blue belt. A lot of people don't know that, but yeah, I got my blue from Royce. And but at some point, I mean, back in the day, we would wear the gi, and that's how we all started. At some point, I don't know, I just started training without the gi, and I just found I liked it a lot more. Like, man, for me, it was a lot more fun. And so I tried to train without the gi as often as I could. And so basically, I was, I mean, the Gracie Association was there in the States, but that, it's a little bit far for me to go there all the time. So for a long time, I was a Ronin. I would grapple as often as I could. I would even go to TriStar to grapple with the guys. And at some point, I think it was Wagner Fabiano that first came to Montreal that opened up the first legit BJJ school. And of course, it was a more gi-oriented school, so I wasn't really interested in going through that curriculum. So I stayed Ronin for a long time, but still training. And at some point, I opened up a gym with my brother, and I called it H2O. It's still operating today, and it's very successful. My brother's doing really well. They have a lot of good guys there. But, we ended up parting ways. And at some point, I even almost stopped training jiu-jitsu. But, I dug deep, and I decided it was, it was part of who I am. I had to keep training. And being more inclined to train no-gi, I became more interested in the Eddie Bravo philosophy. And at some point, I just hooked up with Eddie Bravo. And so eventually, I got my purple belt from him, my brown, and eventually, very recently, I got my black. So I'm the first black belt under Eddie Bravo in Canada, the entire country. So I'm really proud of that. And I'm actually the only black belt under Eddie Bravo on the entire East Coast, Canada and US included. So I'm very proud of that. And but I'm not stopping there. Like I'm always trying to just innovate my own technique. I'm always trying to incorporate techniques from other top guys. Like I use a lot of Marcelo Garcia techniques. I'm incorporating a lot of Pablo Popovich techniques. Actually, Pablo has been at our academy a couple times. He's a great guy, and we're going to continue training with him. And I'm going to continue training with Eddie Bravo, man. He's my mentor, and I'm going to try to go to LA as often as I can, train with Eddie directly. And yeah, that's basically it. Competition is actually a very interesting topic for me. As an instructor, I've been competing a while as an instructor, and that's really hard because as an instructor, you're expected to win. That's a hard thing. If you're just a student, especially a newbie, and you're young, you just want to compete, you win some, you lose some, it's not a big deal. But as an instructor, it's like there's a lot of pressure to win. So when I started 10th Planet, I mean, as I said before, I'm not that young. So I was actually, getting up there in age when I started 10th Planet. And I spoke with Eddie, and Eddie actually wanted me to go out there and start competing again. I competed some back in the day, I was just I wasn't anything special. I think I always had talent. I was good, you know. I won some, I lost some, you know. Nothing special, but, you know, having not competed in a while and feeling, you know, the effects of old age, and Eddie was encouraging me to compete, I was like, damn, not sure how this is gonna go. So, but I did it anyways. And in the beginning, I didn't do so well. My cardio wasn't good, my technique wasn't sharp. I would never get dominated, but when I first started competing again, it wasn't easy. But then, you know, I had to dig deep, you know, like I had to think of a way to win. You know, it became my job to figure out a way to win. If I was going to compete, I wasn't going to compete and lose, but I wasn't going to not compete. So I had to figure a way, you know, like, what am I going to do, you know? So I forced myself, I have to win. So when you put yourself in that corner, you have to step up your game. You have no choice, you know? So, and I did that. You know, I improved my technique. Just everything. I polished everything up. I tweaked different ways that I was doing things, and I've been very successful competing as an instructor. And I think that's important for instructors to compete. And a lot of you know that my lower back is really messed up. So every time I competed, I was never able to train really hard. Hard sparring in consecutive days was a very rare thing for me. My back is just a complete mess. And so I can never run, do heavy weightlifting, skip. Those are things that would be too much for my back. So I had to rely heavily on my technique. And like I said, I figured a way out that I could win, and I've been doing well. I've won the Grappler's Quest Canadian Nationals 3 times. 3 times out of 3. Each time I won first place, so I'm proud of that. And I did, very recently I did the US Nationals, Grappler's Quest US Nationals. First time I tried that and I won gold, first place, very proud of that. And another one of my proud accomplishments, we talked about it before in the video that we just did before about my submission of the night victory at FFC1, which was for charity, and that was a big event. That was really cool. But you know, on top of that, just the fact that I was competing as an instructor and winning, that really motivated my students. Like they could see, man, the old man's doing it. You know, if the old man can do it, we can do it too. You know, so that really inspired my students, and I'm happy about that. And back to the thing about instructors competing. I mean, it's like I said, it's hard, man. But I mean, like I have all the respect in the world for instructors who compete. It's not an easy thing to do. I think a lot of instructors, I mean, you don't have to compete, but those who put it on the line, I mean, you know, my hats off to them. I think a lot of instructors, I don't want to name any names, you know, you guys know who you are, they make excuses for not competing, like, oh, I've got an injury, I can't compete anymore. I mean, some of that is true, but, you know, I know what it's like to be hurt and not want to lose, and it's so easy to make excuses not to compete, but man, as an instructor, if you step up and compete, man, that's one of the hardest things you can do. So, hats off to the instructors who compete. You know, I've been there. I know what it's like, and yeah. At 10th Planet Montreal, my real passion is Jiu-Jitsu. So that's what we focus on. Like, we're not necessarily a kickboxing school or an MMA school. We're a Jiu-Jitsu school, and more no-gi. We do train in the gi, but not nearly as much. So if you want to bump up your game in no-gi, like I believe that we're the place to train in Montreal. And that's where, you know, in the past, present, and in the future, that's where the focus is going to be. I want to produce, you know, future no-gi champions. It would be my dream to have like one of my students in ADCC one of these days. I mean, it's not going to happen overnight. You know, we're a really young school, but you know, that would be my goal. And we have a lot of good guys, up and coming guys that are doing really well in competitions. Every time we've hit comps, like Grapplers Quest or NAGA as a team, as a big team, we've always done really well. And on top of that, we, you know, like I said before, we're always open to new techniques, you know. I mean, in addition to bringing Eddie Bravo down for seminars, you know, I want to bring other guys down here for seminars too, you know. Like I said, we brought Pablo Popovich here a few times, and we're going to bring him back, you know. I'm going to keep training with Pablo, and you know, I'm not closed-minded at all, you know, like anything, you have something that works for me, you know, I'm going to take it, you know, like I don't pretend to know everything. I'm learning things from white belts, you know. I roll with white belts and they move a certain way, and then I have to react to that. It's like, that's interesting. I could add that to my game. My own students are teaching me things, you know. Well, I just want to say that I just want to give a heartfelt thank to my mentor, instructor Eddie Bravo, who really encouraged me, like I talked about before, to compete. I was at that point when he told me I should be competing, I was like at a stage where, dude, you know, you sure I should be competing? And yeah, I mean, it was probably, like, me going back competing, probably one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. Just the pain, like my back, having the roll, and the nerves of, man, I gotta win, I gotta, you know, I gotta beat this guy, you know, like so much involved, traveling to tournaments. But all that, I mean, it's paid off. I mean, my game is just so much better, you know. I mean, some people love to compete, some people don't. I can't say, I'm sort of halfway. I love it, but I hate it, you know. But I mean, just the fact that I did it, and I forced myself to be successful, it just paid off so much, you know, paid off for myself. I'm just so much better. My game, my physical game, but also my mental game. And I believe I can pass that on to my students. And I'll be forever grateful to Eddie Bravo for encouraging me to do that. And I would encourage other people to do that, including instructors. Yeah, and I also think it's important to be open-minded. I'm open-minded to, I encourage people to be creative, you know. I try to be creative myself. It's harder for, I think it's harder for people my age to latch on to newer techniques. There's a lot of new game out there that's coming, but I'm open to it, you know. I try to learn it. It takes a while for me to get the newer game into my own personal game, but I'm open to it. But as a philosophy in general, well, with politics in mind, I know there's a lot of politics in Jiu-Jitsu. There's a lot of rivalries between schools. But in the end, I mean, we're all just doing Jiu-Jitsu, you know. We all love Jiu-Jitsu. Some schools just do gi, we're more no gi. Some people are half and half, you know. But in the end, like I said, it's all Jiu-Jitsu, you know. We should all get along, you know. It's all for the love of the art, you know, and that's it, man.